Good morning, friends, disciples, and devotees. Today I'm going to share with you something very personal, but it really has to do with all of us. Finally, I was blessed to have two Upa gurus in my life. The first was Aurobindo Basu from 1960 or so on. The second was Nolini. And I want to talk to you a bit about Nolini today and a meeting that we had with him on my birthday, July 29th, 1979. You know, Nolini lived in the overmind, and he said sometimes a little higher. And we were living in Oroville at the time, and I would meet with him regularly. Once, when I was so totally exhausted, I came to him and I said, I need my batteries recharged. He put both of his hands on my head for 1 or 2 minutes and said finally, they are recharged. It was an incredible experience for me because I could have flown out of his office. And then on my birthday, I wrote to him a couple of days before and asked if I could see him, giving a brief summary of recent events regarding the Matrimandir and asking the following question. Is Oroville, individually and collectively, now strong enough to stand on its own and seek the truth of its being? Or is a reconciliation with, I won't mention the group, necessary? Mary Helen gave him the letter, and he told her I should come on the morning of my birthday. When we came to the door, he warmly called, come in, sit down anywhere. All places are the same, and indicated to Mary Helen to take his secretary's chair, while I sat on the floor near him. Though we can't reconstruct his words completely, we will try to give the substance of what he said and hopefully convey something of the feeling behind the words. It was an aspect of Nolini one rarely sees, a great sweetness and closeness. And contrary to his usual tendency to avoid commenting on any situation, he spoke generously and candidly to us for more than 10 minutes. Now, I should tell you that there was a time in my life, in those years, in the 70s, when he would come to me night after night and teach me things, of which I remember nothing, to be honest with you. And when I even asked him why he was doing this and what he was doing, he just smiled at me and said, maybe it's your own soul, and made a joke. So back to our meeting now, on my birthday. We had presented him with more than 100 varieties of plumeria, psychological perfection, on a big tray. And he said to Anima, make sure you give them back the tray. Now he begins speaking about Oroville and the numerous experiments Mother is making there. He said, quote, she is trying so many ways. and spoke of individuals and groups as units expressing or working out something specific. He said the whole world is like that, but, quote, you haven't come here to be like the rest of the world. You've come here to realize the oneness, the unity. And I'll keep this last thing and I'll read it last. Now, regarding the question in my letter, he said, it need not happen like that, all that negativity. He spoke at length about the necessity for goodwill. He said it can't be just a superficial goodwill, but a deep, sincere bonne volonté. He repeated this many times in different ways, and then spoke of the destructiveness of rancor. He said rancor and hatred eat at the consciousness. It makes a man as low as an animal. No, lower, a worm or an insect. It comes from the lowest part of the being, end quote. Then he said the world is in such a state, and quote, but one has to be a guru to be the leader of a nation. Then he was quiet for a while. When he spoke again, referring to goodwill, he said, I tell you this because it is your birthday, that you have the capacity. He was silent for a moment, then said, no one has the capacity. It is all her. One only has to see her for a moment. She casts her glance, and it is enough. I then asked him, what about the Matrimandir? Because the gardens were not going well, and I couldn't quite catch the vision that Mother had given me in her words. And there was much disharmony. He said, do not trouble yourself about it. It will go on. The work means nothing, end quote. He was quiet for a moment, then smiled, and we got up to leave. But before we left, he said the following, pointing to each of us in turn. Your body, pointing to Mary Helen, and your body, pointing to me, and my body, pointing to himself, may all look different, but they are not. They are all the same. They are all her body, really. She has put a part of herself into each of us. Then he asked me, have I given you your card? His secretary gave him a card and 2 blessings packets, and handing the card and 1 blessing packet to me, he said, in a joyous, powerful, resonant voice, Bonne fête, carrying something in it of the way Mother wished us a happy birthday. I bent down to touch his hand, and he held my head with both of his hands, giving me his blessing. Then he took Mary Helen's hand firmly in his, pressed the blessing packet into it, and held it there for a long time, giving us all the while the most radiant smile. Namaste with my love and prayers to everyone.